Okay, let me see if I. Oh, no, 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 no. What is that? I want to share, but with still some. Let me see. Speaker. Okay, we are just going to do this basic screen share because I. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. Welcome to the bridal sessions. This month, we are talking about the path to peace for brides, basically, your anxiety solutions, whether you are on your big day or all the way planning it. There's so many ups and downs, and um, being able to stay in a place of peace, I think, is the number one thing that brides come to me for. So, just a little bit about who I am. My name is Kara Gassabay. My business is called Kara Maureen Bridal Coaching. I have like the worst cold. I feel like we have been inside for like over a year and a half. And now that like everything's opened up and we started seeing people, it's like the first week or two and everybody got sick. So excuse my congestion, but I am going to power through because I'm so excited about what I wanted to share. But a little about me: I am a life coach, girl mom, vintage lover, always like at the thrift store. But what I help brides with is navigating stress and drama of getting married so they can start their new chapter with their relationships intact. So basically, so many people, while they're planning their wedding, totally upend their friendships, their relationships with their family, their fiance. Relationship with their fiance starts to get really rocky, and they end up at their wedding day with like tattered relationships with the people that matter most. And it was just because they weren't able to navigate all the stresses and dramas and the huge change that happens during this time. So that is what I help brides with. A little about my background: I went to an all girls Catholic high school, which I always feel like was like the best training ground for some of these like interpersonal issues, and like really helped me discover my love for being in a community of women, helping women, lifting each other up. Just there's so much with that, like just good goddess girl energy that I love. And then I went on to college and studied sociology and peace and conflict studies. Both of those um, topics really inform my work today. Right after that, I went to the University of Pennsylvania and got my master's in social work. I really was interested in how to get the research that we know about how to have a better society into people's hands. And I thought social work would be the best way to do that. It turned out, though, that I didn't really find what I was passionate about until a few years later when I discovered life coaching and I got certified by Martha Beck. She is really famous life coach, most known for being one of Oprah's go-to experts. And so all of those things combined bring me to where I am. And I was coaching women who were in the dating world. Before, let me just admit someone. I was coaching women who were struggling in the dating world before I pivoted to bridal coaching. And one of the reasons was that I had always been in the, self-help, professional development world, had done a lot of, my own work, feeling like a really sort of emotionally together person until my own wedding. I really was like, wow, this is tough stuff. And there's a lot that goes on that nobody really talks about. It's one of those things, I think, culturally, where we always just describe it in this really flat narrative of being the best time in your life. And you have all the attention and all the gifts, and everything is wonderful. And you're spending all this money on this party. And all of that might be true, but there's this whole underbelly of friendships falling apart, fights with your parents, issues with your fiance that you didn't see coming, the cold feet, the anxiety of who you are in this moment. Are you looking the way you thought you'd look? Or do you have the money you thought you'd have to have the wedding you wanted? Like all of these identity shifts. Do you want to take your partner's last name, what's going to happen with your career, do you want to become a mother? Like all of these things start happening right around that wedding. And they specifically happen for women in a very different way than they do for men. Um, and so going through this with my own wedding and my wedding story had a cultural narrative to it. Like I come from an Irish Catholic background, my husband is Persian. We're both really close to our families and have pretty large families and have strong um, mother figures who both had very different ideas about what the wedding should look like and what it should be about. And so, as you can guess, it caused a lot of anxiety and drama for me trying to navigate all of that. Of course, we got engaged in September and got married in December. So, like, it was so quick and at holiday time, and a lot went on. But needless to say, that is what really shifted me and my passion to start serving brides because I just think nobody talks about the intense transition that goes on and how to do it better. Again, everybody can white knuckle and get through their wedding, but it's such a perfect time in your life to stop and figure out those patterns in your life that aren't serving you. Think about the way that you're relating to the people that you love the most that aren't serving you. Because my whole thesis in this is whatever happens during your wedding planning is like a blueprint for what's going to happen in your marriage. So, whatever sort of maybe issues you're having with your mother in law during the wedding planning, don't think that those same dynamics are not going to carry over. So it's like you're getting a preview, like your wedding planning is this intense like glimpse into all these dynamics that will play out in the future. And it's of course the wedding. I am not going to say the wedding is not a very condensed, intense time. Everything does calm down, but those things that you learn, those insights that you gain, those problems that arise, those red flags, those tricky situations, it's great to stop and pay attention to them and get the skills that you need to protect your energy, to upgrade your communication skills, whatever it is, learn boundaries, whatever those things you need. This is the time to do it because when you get married, you're adding not only your fiance's life and sharing a life and merging and all of that, but his friends, his family. If you're starting your own family, like, do you see how it's like the web is getting multiplied? It's getting bigger, which is so wonderful, but it can be complicated. So, I think it is the perfect time to really upgrade your operating system emotionally and relationship wise. So today we are talking about peace. I think this sense of peace is like what my it's like my driving force in the work that I do. It's the thing that like I'm always trying to get back to. I'm trying to help clients get back to because I think that even more than happiness, peace is what we crave. Peace is the way of existing that is the most natural state. So it's like the majority of our time we want to be in peace. And the only way to do that, it's all inside work, right? Like you can be at peace no matter what your circumstances are if you know how to train your brain and harness your emotions in a way that you can keep returning to peace. So, that is what I want to talk about today and give you some tips and tricks to use sort of in the bigger picture as you're going through things. And then some are more immediate fixes for like when that anxiety really flares up, whether it's like you're in a fight or a tricky situation or you're about to walk down the aisle and you're like feeling all of these eyes on you, those kind of situations, it's nice to have something in your back pocket. Ugh, I'm so sorry for this congestion. Okay, first things first, I want to, again, let's normalize the roller coaster that is the engagement season, that is being a bride. Like, I hate the bridezilla myth. I do not think that weddings turn women into these crazy monsters. I think that whole bridezilla myth is just when you see brides kind of going crazy, or you yourself feel like, wow, I am an emotional basket case. You are not a bridezilla. You are a person going through a tremendous change. And last month, I did the whole explanation of the change cycle and how it manifests in your bridal experience. But I just think it's great to remind ourselves that this is meant to be a roller coaster. It going getting married, like it has to be a roller coaster because you are shedding an old identity. You're gaining a new one. Like all these new people are coming into your life. It's just not going to be smooth no matter what. So the roller coaster aspect just needs to be part of it. And the reason we did normalize it is because if you do have a meltdown, I don't want you or the people around you to think it means something has gone wrong or that you shouldn't get married or that it's the wrong person or you're not ready or whatever. I think we start to scare ourselves and the people around us when our emotions get out of whack that something has really gone wrong. And for the most part, it's just the processing of emotions that are absolutely a part of the change process. So the first concept I think is the most helpful, and it is one of those things where now I'm using so much in parenting as well, is hold two things. So when we are stressed and when something is really important, we want to get really clear. And a lot of times, clarity can be disguised as black and white thinking. Like, is my fiance perfect? Is this wedding like the exact right thing that we should be doing or not? And it's comes up a lot with friends too. Like one example I'll give, it's like if you have a friend who's maybe has doubts about the person you're marrying or your parents or you're just and so many brides will get into this like you either approve or you don't and I don't want to hear it if you don't like you're on my team or you're off my team like get on board or get off and that's what sort of underlies a lot of times when these friendships fall apart. It's because we aren't able to hold two things. Like, are you able to say, my friend loves me and she's worried about me, and I know that I'm choosing the right partner and that everything is okay, but she doesn't have to really know it at this point. Like, do you see how it's like holding two things? So it's like, I love my wedding. I love, so like for a lot of the Corona brides who had to completely pivot, it's like, I love my wedding and I'm really disappointed. Like, I am super grateful and I'm really frustrated. I am really sure that this is my person and I'm really scared of marriage because I've never done it before and I don't know how to do it. And the whole forever thing is really overwhelming. So, letting yourself hold two things usually brings that nervous system like back under control instead of trying to be like, which one is it? Does my friend is she still my friend or is she not? Like, does my wedding am I screwed? Am I like a screwed corona bride who like just doesn't get anything I want? Or is it the both and? So it's like the more you can just anytime you feel that your stress is really rising, look at what you're thinking and see if you're in that black and white pull where you're trying to force your brain to pick a side and turn your back on the other thing. But a lot of times it's both things at the same time. It's like I was saying at the beginning, I'm really thinking about it a lot in parenting. It's like, I love this child every single minute. And there are moments that I'm like, you're a monster. Like, you know what I mean? Like, both things are literally true at the same moment, and the more I let them be true at the same time, the calmer it gets. So, that's the first little tip. I just want you to always remember when you're stressed, is there a way to just grab both things and let them both exist together? And, um, I don't think it won't muddy your thinking as much as you think it will. It will actually calm it down and clarify because both things are true. So yeah, this was I was supposed to flip to this, but yeah, the other ways to think about I can be happy and sad at the same time. The idea of marriage can be both liberating and binding. Planning a wedding can be really hard and fun. People can be happy for you and worried about you. You can feel confident and scared. Like just any kind of duality, try to embrace both because it is the truth. Okay, so this next concept is one of my favorites. It is called intentional resting. And this is sort of like, I guess it's like a mini meditation that you just do yourself. And you can do it at any time for any reason. Um, but it's got a very calming effect. I used to use it before I would go on dates with like people from Match.com And I would just be like all amped up, like, because, meeting a stranger is so awkward and you're like, you just get all this anxiety about like feeling like you're going to be judged and evaluated and all these things. And so this is the resting meditation where, when people say, I'm sending you good vibes or I'm sending you prayers, this is sort of a take on that, but it's like you're resting for someone. And there's something about rest that is, again, it's so tied to that idea of peace. And I just think it's so different the way it plays out in your brain that it like works better. So, one of the ways around your wedding day, when you're like in that really amped up state, like you've got like, it's been a long planning, you've had to make changes and so many unexpected bumps in the road and weird opinions and people being a mess. If you can take a moment at any point in the process and rest for all the things going on inside of you. So, one of the ways I think about it with the wedding, it's like I rest for my joy, I rest for my fear, I rest for my anxiety, I rest for the girl who dreamed of this day, I rest for the woman who will remember it. So it's like you're resting for all the feelings you're having. And then I love the part of like resting for your past self, resting for your future self, resting. Then you can turn it outward and you're resting for your fiance who's waiting for you at the end of the aisle. You're resting for your mom and all of the drama that she's bringing to this day, or the hopes and dreams or sadness or whatever she's carrying. You can rest for your vendors. You can rest for your photographer and the art that she's creating. You can rest for the wait staff who's so excited to like put on this beautiful banquet dinner for you. You can just rest for people. And the more rest you just throw on situations, it just is so magical. And it's, I don't know what about it that instead of just being like, I pray for them or I send them good wishings or tidings, there's something about rest. Maybe it's just because we all need it so much. And it really is sort of the antidote to anxiety. So the more you send rest out, the more rest you really feel. And there's just something so magical. Again, I shared this on a podcast. I was featured on a couple weeks ago, and this woman was a photographer, and she's like, I started doing it and it worked. Like she was photographing a wedding and she saw like a really stressful situation happen with like the catering staff. And she's like, I just started sending them rest. And like she could feel herself calm down. She could feel them calm down. And like I said, for me, I just remember in those dating times and even on my wedding day, I just remember like it just brings everything down a notch. And it's this cool, like energetic exchange that is, I have not found anything else quite like it. So definitely try to do intentional resting anytime you're feeling stressed or you feel there's stress in your environment, and see how that works for you. Okay, the next one is kind of similar, but this one is just more sort of you focused. This is, I call it the mermaid meditation. I think other people use it as like the dropping an anchor meditation. And it's just, again, when you use your senses and get out of your thinking brain and get into more of hearing and seeing and remembering, like that is a huge part of helping your um, nervous system calm down. So for this one, basically, you are taking a moment to picture the ocean. And we all know, like, the top of the ocean, it's like super turbulent. There's waves, there's birds dipping in, there's boats crossing by. When there's a storm passing, it's really wild. Um, and you think of like how destructive and powerful and overwhelming an ocean could be. And so that is how your life a lot of times feels during wedding planning, right? Like you're getting crashed by waves that like you did not see coming, whether it's money stuff, body stuff, identity stuff, family stuff, friend stuff, pandemic stuff. Like there's just so many things coming at you that you didn't really expect. And these waves can feel so overwhelming and you can feel so powerless. And the mermaid meditation reminds us that you can drop down under the surface at any point. And you know what it feels like, even if you don't swim in the ocean, if you've been in a pool, that like sound when you go under the water and like you just hear like the bubble, any noise that's upstairs or upstairs above you, above the surface is so muffled and just toned down and like it just can't bother you, like, things can't get in the same way, you've got this protection of the water, and that is just such a great reminder that you can do that yourself at any point. So it's like whatever situation you're in, whether you're inside of a fight or just inside of your own head, it's like dropping under the water at any point. Just feel yourself doing it and just knowing that that's always available for you, right? Like you're going to be on the surface most of the time, but you've got this ability to drop in under the surface where it's always calm, where it's peaceful. Um, it's just such a beautiful reminder of the like planes of existence within our own body that we're not always utilizing. And so, again, it's another way to escape, to rest, to regroup, to recenter instead of fighting the waves on the top, right? And just swatting it and fighting it and swimming against the current. It's like just remove yourself from it for a minute, right? And then see what happens. So that is another absolute favorite that I love to use. So, okay, the next one is very much about like the touch sensation. We talked about how I love thought work. Thoughts create your emotions create your actions determine your results. I will do thought work with clients all day long. But sometimes there is nothing better than just the physical body, right? Like we were given this body to like, that's how we interact with the world. So using it to help us in stressful, anxiety provoking situations, I think is so smart. This is so simple. It's called hand on heart. It's exactly what it sounds like. Basically, when you're stressed, so like if you just had an argument with someone, if you're really just nervous about something, if you're waiting for an email or an answer or whatever, you can just put your hand on your heart and feel literally stop and feel the sensation of it. Sometimes you can put your other hand on top so you really feel that pressure. And you want to just think about like sending that warm sensation from your hand into your heart, like into your internal space. And I think well, I think it's just lovely how quickly it just re-engages you with your body, but also it's proven with the scientists. There are studies on this if you Google it, but it releases oxytocin and it really does kind of tell your body, like your body collects all this information. A lot of it's from what you're thinking, but a lot of it is from your senses. So it's telling your body, like, hey, look, someone's holding you, someone's supporting you, someone is here for you. Like almost the animal body part of us is getting a reminder that, like, you're cared for, even by your own self. I know it seems weird, but I'm telling you, your body needs these reminders. So, hand on heart is just such a great, especially I always tell my brides before they go down the aisle when stuff is really super real and there's not time to do any other um, tricks or techniques and you're feeling like all the eyes are on you and you're just, it's a moment you've waited for your whole life or a moment you never thought would happen to you or whatever your thoughts are about it. Be there for yourself. Like, be there for this girl, be there for this body, be there for this heart, and just remind yourself you've got you. And it like helps reconnect the mind that wants to detach from the body and do its own thing here. And it puts it right back in the body. And it's like reconnecting, like, okay, me and my mind and all the crazy thoughts we have are in this body, and we're a team, we're connected, and we're okay. That's really the bottom line, is always reminding yourself, reminding your heart, your mind, your body that in every moment you're always okay. You have what you need in that exact moment. And connecting back to that present moment is really sort of what's the big answer for anxiety, right? Like anxiety is always stressing about the past or the future or the past or the future. But when you take it really, 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 really specifically down in this moment, you're completely okay, right? Like I could be anxious, like, how do I do this? I have a cold. I sound ridiculous. I could be nervous about like, what do people think about it when they see it? Like, but right now, I'm speaking, like words are coming out. I'm okay in this moment. So I think that is, again, it's easy to say, just get present, be in the moment. We hear that, but those things become so cliche that you can't really connect to them, which is why these other sort of tips and tricks, I think, are so helpful. But yes, hand on heart, one of my faves. This other concept is sort of a bigger concept that I think is really helpful for you to take on as you are embarking on wedding planning or continuing on it. It's this idea of bridal bigness. And it's kind of connected to the idea of the both and thinking and an energetic space that you want to step into. And it's about the bridal experience as being expansive, right? Like this is a time where you've got to be, or you have the opportunity to be, the better version of yourself, the bigger version of yourself. And the way to do that is connecting to things that expand our thinking, expand our consciousness, expand our ability to handle things, like our bandwidth, all wants to be upgraded at this time in transition of your life. So, one of the ways I like to think about bridal bigness is getting into gratitude. So it's like there's that smallness that tells you like you can't afford the florist you want, you can't find the right dress, your friends are not planning the bachelorette party in the right way, like, and everything makes you feel small and annoyed and anxious or agitated. But then if you just do a little gratitude practice, right? Again, very cliche, everybody says it, but it's true. I'm not even saying be grateful for the sake of being grateful, which do that if that works. But I'm saying be grateful because it works to make you feel better. Gratitude just reminds us of all that we have. And we are, if you are on this screen, you've got a lot, right? So it's like anchoring back into the abundance of your life as it is. No matter what's going on in your wedding planning, you already found a person you want to marry. Like, that's all it was ever about, right? And that doesn't mean we don't care about the wedding and we don't want to have an awesome, epic experience and day, but just anchoring back into the big picture is so important. And gratitude is the number one way to do it. I think it always is just such a great shift for your thoughts, but also for your energy. So just being really grateful that you've got friends to be mad at, that you've got a wedding to plan, that you've got a family who, as crazy as they might be, you've got that family there for you, whatever they're doing to make you bananas. But also this idea of bigness too, when you're struggling, right? When you're struggling with like changing your name or struggling with just the role of a bride and what it means in our culture and all of those things, I love to think about the lineage, right? Like you're not the first one to go through this, right? So you can think back to like, I am not just Susie Q getting married, isolated and alone and struggling. I am a part of a huge lineage of women who have walked down this aisle, right? And so it's like plugging into like the your own ancestors. Think of your mother, your grandmother, your future daughters if you want to have them. Like any woman in history that you just think of, like, and how she approached this moment and what it meant to her and how you're connected to her in this time in your life. I think that, and again, craft it however. you wanted it, whether it's someone, a woman in your life that you love who never had this moment and your her dream realized, like whatever it is, create that story for yourself and anchor into it. I think when we anchor ourselves in a historical framework, it just gives us a feeling of bigness and like, okay, this isn't just me and my burden and my struggle or me and my magic and my wonderful life. It's I'm part of this bigger historical um, tradition that we all do, a culture, whatever, however you want to think about it. I just think it's so, it helps that expansive energy and it gives you that bridal bigness. The other way I love to think of it is the quote from Rumi about you're not a drop in the ocean. You're not only the drop in the ocean, but you're also the ocean in the drop. So it's like, when you have that feeling of like just smallness and just like, I cannot deal with like my job, my friends, my wedding, my this, my that, and you feel so powerless. It's like remembering, like, even in that little one drop of water is the energy of what the whole ocean is. So it's like even you, like separated out alone by yourself, like within you is all of the magic of all of humanity and all of potential. And so it's just like a really cool way to think about it when you're feeling small and tossed around. It's like, but inside me is the energy of like a goddess. It's like I have this huge energy inside of me when I choose to tap into it. And then the other way to think about it is in every moment, there is um, always, oops, in every moment, there's two choices, right? Like you can operate from love or fear. And it's a way of going about your life whenever you're stuck or confused. If you ask yourself, what would love have me do now? What would love say to this person now? Instead of fear, right? Like so many times we're just like, what is she going to do if I say this? What's going to happen if I don't lock this down? What's going to happen if all of these things, right? Like, what am I going to do if my dress doesn't fit? What am I going to do if I don't lose weight? What am I going to do if I can't afford the Botox or whatever, like things you're thinking? Just ask yourself, what would love have me do? So it's like getting out of the weeds, pulling back the lens, and approaching it just with a different, so much about this stuff and anchoring into your bridal bigness is about um, that bigger worldview and pulling yourself out of the weeds because that's what stress and anxiety does. It pulls you right into the weeds. It gets you detailed. It gets you black and white thinking. It gets you overwhelmed. It gets you mad. It gets you cutting people off. It gets you being mean to yourself. It steals your joy. It makes the whole thing ridiculous. For those of you who have been with me before, like my whole vision in my business is why show up to the most beautiful day, the most expensive day probably you've ever created for your life and feel like crap inside, feel stressed, be beating yourself up, be angry at the people you love. Like it doesn't need to be that way. And it's such a beautiful exercise. Like, can you show up looking your most beautiful in a setting that's the most beautiful with the most important people there? And can you show up on the inside feeling like you match that environment you've created? Can you feel as good as this whole external beautiful wedding you've created? And I think that is the challenge. That's why I love this bridal space. I think there's so much potential there. Um, to do some really good work that then I'm telling you carries over into your marriage. You're going to have a better relationship with your husband. You're going to have a better relationship with your in laws, your own parents. Like the whole thing just builds on itself. So that is the concept of bridal bigness. And then the next thing, oh, yeah. So again, I told you before, most of the things I do with my clients are the thoughts. I put them at the end of this presentation because I talk about it a lot. But again, nothing is better for calming your brain than thinking the right thoughts. The whole thing is always in your control. You have the power to choose your thoughts, and your thoughts actually do create your emotions. People forget that and think that the emotions come first, but there's always a thought under it. And so that's where you have the ability and the power to calm yourself down is when you're really specific and really picky about your thoughts. Um, as picky as you are about your dress, as picky as you are about your hair and makeup, are you that picky about your thoughts? And so sometimes when we are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, the thoughts just happen very automatically. Our brain serves up billions of thoughts a day. And sometimes we're like, I don't even know how to like sort for like which one to pick. We often pick the one that feels the truest, which is usually the one that's based in fear, right? Because our brain is here to protect us. So we usually pick the ones that are very negative and fear based. And that's totally fine. That is how our brain is wired. But because we are evolved humans, we can choose to pick other thoughts that will help us feel better and make better decisions in our life. So when you're feeling overwhelmed and not sure what to think, literally you're like, I don't know what to make of this situation. So, like, maybe something's going wrong on your wedding day because we know that something's going to go wrong on our wedding day. Like any day, stuff happens that we don't predict or don't plan for. Shoot, like, already have in your pocket, because all the cute dresses have pockets now, or have in your handbag, like this thought: nothing has gone wrong. Even if it doesn't feel true, just say it to yourself, because it is as true as the thought everything is going wrong. The thought nothing has gone wrong is also true, right? Like, you don't exactly know how it's going to play out and how it's going to make sense, but in hindsight, it will. So I love practicing the thought nothing has gone wrong. Like, I remember when I was getting married, and it was a couple days, it was December 20th, so 5 days before Christmas. And we're outside doing like some photos before the wedding, and it's cold, and we're in this city, we're in DC, and people are doing a Santa bar crawl. And they're like running up and down the street, like drunk, which again, I'm like, that's fine. But then they're screaming, like, don't do it, like, don't get married. Like, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I just felt so obviously, I was very anxious and nervous before my wedding, like, a lot was going on, so I was very already hyped up, and then to have people saying this, I was like it felt like just like a disaster. I mean, I don't know why, it just felt very like, "This should not happen." And I remember thinking, like, nothing has gone wrong. Like, these people are drunk on a bar crawl and, like, living their best single life and, like, being funny, and even though I don't feel it in that moment, it's still true, nothing has gone wrong. Like, it just gives you that little bit of space because immediately your brain is like, "Look at this. My wedding day is ruined by some random strangers on the street of DC." Like, do you see how quickly I was, like, tempted to make it, like, this devastating thing, which would ruin my mood, my moment, like, get me spiraling when I was already high anxiety? But that thought, "Nothing has gone wrong." Like, "Oh, this is funny. This is how it's supposed to be," right? Like, this is what happens. Um in a city before Christmas when people are on Santa bar crawls and people are seeing people in like, we love stopping and watching a woman in a wedding dress and her husband like taking pictures. Like, it's a spectacle. Like, of course, if you're drunk, you're going to say something. So just again, letting there be that space, nothing has gone wrong, and letting your brain look for evidence how that is true. It's just one of my favorite little mantras. The other one, if that one, is too hard sort of for your brain to, like, get hooked into, everything is always working out for me. Love this one. When you are just a little perplexed and a little, like, on edge, like, say you're running late or someone didn't show up, you were just like, "You know what? Everything is always working out for me." Look where you are. You are at your wedding day. Things have worked out for you. You are here. You are alive. You are in love. People care. People are showing up for it. People are celebrating you. There's champagne, there's cake. Like, everything is always working out for you. And again, just put it in your pocket as your go to thought. When something looks weird, something gets a little shaky, you're just going to say, everything's always working out for me. And let your brain find evidence of how that is true. Um, it's so funny because, again, I had another weird moment on my wedding day. Um, where my like nephew was like 2 years old and kept like getting locked in this hotel room by himself with my wedding dress and his lights, and It weirdly happened like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, I was just so stressed, and I was just freaking out, and I had a lot of weird moments like that in my whole wedding, um, experience, and I'm just like when I look back, I'm like, "Oh my god, it was all working out for me." If I didn't have all of these, like, very annoying mini dramas, and again, these are random stories I'm choosing, but the whole story, there's lots of stuff. It is look, it worked out for me. It really led me into the next phase of my career. Like, I didn't know it at the time. At the time, I was just, like, feeling like I didn't plan things properly or things were falling apart or people were not doing their job or whatever, but, like, being able to have the thought, "Everything is working out for me," gives me that space to let that be the truth, and then now looking back, I'm like, "Of course it was. Thank God I had wedding drama because, like, it brought me here." So, again, that's another one of my favorite thoughts. And this is a good one when you are this is the last one. This is a good one for when you're in that dreaming and scheming phase of what you want your wedding to look like or be like, or even what your life, what you want it to be like with your fiance, your marriage, any of that stuff. I really believe in like setting intentions and being imaginative about what you want and claiming it and making your vision boards and doing all those things and then saying, I want this or something better, right? Like, let the universe deliver bigger on your dream or in a version that you didn't expect. I think that is always um, a really great way to stay expansive and open to the possibilities, to the magic, to the miracles. So it's great to do that for your wedding. Like, set your intentions. How do you want it to feel? How do you want it to look? Who do you want to be there? How do you want to experience the day? Put those intentions out and then release it. This or something better. And I think there's just a little magic in there that is both calming and expansive, which is the way we want to feel. So that is my tips and tricks for keeping the anxiety at bay and being in your bridal bigness and being able to really meet this moment with your highest self. If you are interested in working together, I have bridal coaching packages. I have bridal 911 calls, which are like my favorite, just like 1 hour to solve any problem, any drama you might be going through with friends, fiancés, families. Um, and then I am releasing a new podcast starting July 14th. I think it goes live. So excited. It's called Whispers to a Bride, short podcasts, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops, where you're just getting like one concept, one idea, one insight to really help you um, navigate the beautiful and challenging season of wedding planning. So, with that, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I am happy to answer any little issue you've got going on or um, drama you are facing. Happy to answer. And if not, you can always find me on Instagram. I'm at Kara Gasabe and I'm on Facebook and all of that good stuff. So always find me there. I love to do like Q&As where you just type it in. I keep it completely confidential and then I can answer it with a video um, and address your questions that way. Totally love to help out my brides. But also, I need to like go take some cold medicine. I'm so annoyed that I am sick the day I need to be on screen. All right, good, you guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. Again, please find me on Instagram. I would love to chat, help you out, hear about your wedding, hear about any of these things that were helpful. And thank you so much.